emotional freedom technique. As an energy movement facilitator, Sandra's job is to help rebalance, distress, and relieve pain in a natural way. The energy in our body is like a battery powering a piece of equipment. As the energy runs down, the machine stops working as well, and then not at all. I'm sure if you're a caregiver, you can definitely understand how that feels. Sandra is a Reiki master, an EFT practitioner, certified trained professional organizer, a member of Your Holistic Earth, a Natural Health Practitioners of Canada, a professional organizer in Canada, treasurer, local you're the treasurer? Yeah. Cool, I didn't know that. Association of the EFT Practitioners, and very important, she is actually featured in the Womenation magazine for this year, which is an incredible accomplishment. So please, without further ado, my wonderful friend, Sandra.
Thank you, Lisa. Apparently I don't set that down. Holy. Good evening. I hope everyone is doing well. And I hope everyone is enjoying the weather, because I certainly am. I am a spring fall girl, and this cool weather for me is a blessing. So you're not here to hear about that though. You're here for other reasons. You're either caregivers or you know caregivers. So I want to talk to you about the emotional freedom technique. It's generally known as tapping or EFT. And EFT is this amazing tool which anyone can do. And you can do it anywhere at any time. And we actually do this naturally. Have you ever pulled at your fingers, or rubbed your hands together, or even rubbed your temples? That's a form of tapping. So the emotional freedom technique, we're going to skip to the next one. So where did energy tapping come from? It was actually developed by a therapist. He was doing regular talk therapy, and he thought, wow, there has to be a better way. It shouldn't take 10 or 15 years to get through our emotions. So he started recognizing that people were actually self-soothing by rubbing their hands, rubbing their temples, rubbing their forehead. And he thought, they must be onto something. So he kind of combined this with Chinese medicine, because we've got these meridians that are running all through our bodies. And with Chinese medicine and using acupuncture, they could help diffuse all kinds of situations. So he just thought, why don't we use pressure? Same points as acupuncture, no needles, which is a great find. So over several years, he developed this technique, and this is what it has come to be known as, is EFT. It's actually more popular in Europe, but more and more in Canada and the US, it's becoming well known. And I think I just said all of that. So the body has all of these invisible lines running through it. And these invisible lines all connect to our brain. And our body tells our brain what's going on, and our brain actually reacts to what our body is telling it. But our brain is this amazing tool which actually does far more than we ask it to, which I'm going to get to in a second. Next slide. So who uses tapping? Nowadays, everybody uses tapping. Tapping can be used by children, it's used by psychologists, it's used by social workers, it's actually in the medical profession now. There are a lot of famous people using it. Dr. Christiane Northrup is a big tapper, and she's written books on how this all connects. So it's actually getting to be really prevalent in our society. and it's extensively documented, so we don't need to be concerned that it's hocus pocus, because it's not hocus pocus. So we're going to jump to what is emotion. There you go. So emotion is actually energy in motion. And our body's guidance system is guided by emotion. And if we're in alignment, we're going to feel good. If our energy is flowing well, we'll feel good. If it's not flowing well, we're not going to feel good. So it's really, really important to keep your energy flowing, not just through EFT, but through other means as well. So our emotions come from our higher self and our subconscious brain. It's amazing to me how we have a whole brain, but we actually only consistently use 10% of it. We only consciously use 10% of our brain. 90% of our brain is our subconscious. It's where we store our memories. It's where our automatic functions happen. And 30% of our day is spent in our conscious brain. Just 30%. Most people only spend 10 to 20% of the day in their conscious brain. So if you think about that, it's not a whole lot of time that we're actually thinking. We're in our subconscious brain with all our memories, so we're not really paying attention to what we're doing, what we're thinking, how we're reacting. Next slide. Oh, you're good. You're just watching me reach over, right? So this is how our brain actually looks. Well, sort of. It's kind of a cartoon picture. So all of our emotions are guided by our amygdala. And our amygdala is the portion of our brain, it's about the size of an almond. And it's the portion of our brain that actually triggers the fight, flight, and freeze response. So when we have an emotion, and there are 6 basic emotions, 5 of those emotions actually trigger the amygdala. It triggers our fight, flight, and freeze center. So when we get triggered by either sadness or depression or, I'm not going to remember all 6 of them now because I'm standing up here in front of you. Happiness is the only one that does not trigger the amygdala. So happiness does not trigger our fight, flight, or freeze response. Every other emotion does. And if you think about that, when we're in the fight, flight, and freeze response, we don't actually think, we just react. So if you are anxious, your amygdala is triggered. If you are sad, your amygdala is triggered. If you're frightened, your amygdala is triggered. You're not thinking. And if you're not thinking, you're not able to react in a way that's appropriate. So our goal with EFT is to try to get you to be more in your conscious brain and less in your subconscious. We can skip this one, I just pretty much explained it. So the amygdala, one more. The amygdala carries our emotional responses, and when the amygdala is triggered, hormones actually secrete through your body. So it's not like you have a thought and you can actually control that thought. You have a thought, and your thought triggers a hormonal secretion through your body, and those hormones make you react. It's got less to do with your thinking at that point. So it's responsible for our fear conditioning, and the more we are triggered, the more we will get triggered. So we really need to start being more conscious of what we're afraid of. and whether or not we actually need to be afraid of it. So the triggers that happen, now it used to be we were being chased by a tiger, but we don't get chased by tigers anymore. That's a pretty rare occasion. Now we get triggered by the news, or something we see on the street, or someone upsets us in the grocery store. But when we get triggered, our brain actually says, oh, we've had that feeling before, so we're going to go back in time and behave just like we did back then. So when we get triggered with our amygdala, we are actually not thinking at the same age that we are now. We are back in our childhood, in our teen years, in our early adulthood. We're not where we are now. So we really need to become conscious of being in the present and questioning, do we really need to be afraid? So we are only born with two inherent fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. And I think that's great, because every other fear we have has been learned, which means we can unlearn them. And 90% of the experience of anxiety is actually physical. It causes a physical reaction in your body. So our anxiety is actually doing our bodies harm. And 80 to 85% of pain is emotional. Only about 15% is actually physical. Isn't that crazy? So EFT is actually a way to calm your amygdala. It will actually de-stress you when you are in that stress situation, and reroute your amygdala so that you can actually calm down. And it retrains your brain so that you can be calmer the next time that event happens. And that's the really cool thing about emotional freedom technique. So it can be used for pain, anxiety, and stress, are just the three top ones. It can be used for so many other things as well. And it's something you can do in your own home. You can do it when you're out. It only takes a few minutes. Now, of course, some things take longer than others, but doesn't everything. Usually, within 2 or 3 minutes, you can calm yourself down from having some anxiety or lessen your pain in less than 5 minutes. And if you'd like to come over to my booth, I can actually show you how to do that. If I had a little more time, we could do a quick demonstration, but Lisa's telling me I only have about 2 minutes left. Oh, 1 minute. 15 minutes is not very long. So we're actually just going to jump to the last slide, Lisa.
Okay.
So what I want you to take away from this is there are alternatives to medication. There's alternatives to prescription drugs. I'm not saying quit your prescription drugs. I'm saying there are other things you can try. There are wonderful people all around us here who have all kinds of ways to help you get through your day to make it better than it is right now. So if you're looking for a way that doesn't involve prescription drugs, come see me or several of the other vendors. We have ways that you can help calm down your brain. So in closing, I'm doing Reiki treatments today, 15 minutes time slots, and I'm taking donations, and all donations will be donated to Alberta Caregivers. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope you all have a great evening.